Hi, everybody. Welcome back to a very special show today. We're airing on Thanksgiving, and I just want to say to everybody listening, I hope that you've had a wonderful holiday with family and friends, and you're really feeling the spirit of gratitude. Joining me for the next hour on this very special show is a very special, wonderful woman who I've had the honor of knowing this past year very well, Maria Yraceburu. She is a Cuero Apache. She's a storyteller, healer, ceremonial facilitator, and teacher of the snake clan knowledge and philosophy. She's been trained since birth by her grandfather, Ten Bears, and she is the guardian of ancient and mysterious knowledge that has been passed down through countless generations. She is a healer and teacher for over 25 years, and Maria's articles have been translated into 20 different languages, and she now lives in Southern California and still teaches. And I want to just share a personal story real quick. She last came on the show in February of this year. And I knew the moment that I heard her voice, and we had a wonderful hour-long show, that I was supposed to be working with her. So the very next day, in fact, I went on her website and signed up to work with her, and I've been working with her for the past year. And I thought when I did that I must be crazy, because here I am just going, okay, what am I doing? I'm getting myself into another situation where I'm going to be, the student again. And I said, great, and I hit send. And then I said, what did I get myself into? But it's honestly been one of the best experiences. Her heart shines through in everything that she does. I'm very honored, and I feel very privileged to be working with her, and on a personal level. And so I'm very excited about the show today. She's going to be sharing her thoughts and insights on gratitude. She has a wonderful project that she's been putting together. She's going to share with us today that I'm also very much a part of, as far as promoting and raising money for. And we're going to be talking about consciousness and raising consciousness in 2012, and what her thoughts and the prophecies have to say. And so I'm really excited, and I hope that you enjoy the information that's shared, and it enriches your experience of a holiday that symbolizes thankfulness, family, gathering, and it's so important to really take hold of that concept now, especially through all these turbulent, changing times, to have a very strong and wonderful, connection with people you love very much. So welcome, Maria.
Hello, how are you?
I'm great.
I'm speechless. Holy moly.
Well, I did have your bio, and I said, well, I could just read her bio, and I could just do the typical introduction. But, today is a special day, and I want everybody to really feel like we're sitting around a fire, and we've got blankets wrapped around us, and we have full bellies, and we're ready for storytelling and talking and sharing, because that's the intention for this show tonight. So where are you? What's going on now? Why don't we fill me in and fill everybody listening to what's going on?
Well, I have one little correction on your introduction. Actually, I could, go off on that introduction for quite a while. But the one thing is that we're no longer in Southern California. We have moved to New Mexico, and we currently live in the little town of Placitas. And that project that you're talking about, the Tanaskada project, is what brought us here. Tanaskada, as you very well know, is it's a community sustainability project. It's an investment. There's a bunch of us that are trying to go in and buy some property, about almost 200 acres up in northeastern mountains here in New Mexico. And it's a working ranch right now. So there's a barn, and there's a big house, and a ranch manager's place, and so it's irrigated, and there's 3 artesian wells on it, and an abundance of water, and ponderosa pines. And so what we want to do with this is we've noticed that as these changing times and consciousness have come upon us, a lot of the elders who I've served my entire life, that carry the wisdom we need right now, that a lot of them are falling by the wayside. And so what I have been told through my lineage teachings is that I specifically have been trained and brought here to help people learn what a traditional community or extended family is. And in that, we learn to be human. And that is one of the things that the elders have taught me. It's something that we really need to know to get through these changing times. We need to come back to that. So when they talk about looking back to go forward, they're not saying, we're going to go live in caveman days. What they're saying is we need to incorporate some of the values and principles of the indigenous that have worked in keeping us in a harmonious relationship with the earth. So I teach people through various techniques I've learned how to step into their own power, and by doing so, come into community knowing that they are an equal piece in the cooperative of all that goes on in the creation of reality. So this Tenascada community, it started off with a little dream, about how we were going to, all these elders that are reaching their point, and I'm not just talking about Native American elders, I'm talking from all over the world, that when they reach a point where, scheduling their own workshops, trying to gather people together to receive what they have to share, it's kind of a strain on them because, out there for the last forever, it seems like people have been trying to stand on their own. And I know it seems like forever, but it's really only the fourth world. And we'll talk about the worlds here in a little bit. But what it is that in that isolation, in that soul sickness that we've been living in, we've been taught that we need to isolate to protect. And so everybody's been doing it on their own. And what we have seen is a very big disassociation. Well, when we create disassociation, what we are creating is death because life is everything interwoven. So we are trying to pull together the many, divide its property, because we want to give people the opportunity to live in community, to receive the teachings these elders had to share their own wisdom. That's the people that join in the community, because each one of us has something that belongs there that we can share, and do this in a type of traditional community role model. So we've taken the principles of the traditional community, and we're looking at, okay, well, what's the best way to do this in terms that financial institutions in the U.S. government understands, right? Because all of this right now, you have to go through all the building permits, zoning codes, and all these things that you want to do, right, to make sure that you can do these things that you wish to do. Even if the land's saying yes, which this piece of property is, you have to qualify certain things. It's like, we had to go get our nonprofit, for some of the things that we do, because it was the only way we could make money and give money away and not get in trouble. And so this thing, Tenascada, started out as this little, it was going to be a wilderness teepee camp. And this was my grandpa's vision of it. And we would bring people there, especially kids, and we would teach the old ways on how to be in harmony with the land. And then from that, he saw a community growing out of it. But that part of the vision was very vague for him. So he just knew, and he told me that it can't be done alone. There's a time coming when the children of the four directions are going to join back together, and what they're going to need is those that understand how to live not only in harmony with the earth, but in harmony with one another, to show that this type of relationship does exist. Human beings, we don't believe anything till we see it with our own eyes, right? So you have to be involved in something to have the knowing that we all carry turn into the wisdom that it takes to dream the future and make it a reality. Does that sentence make sense?
Yeah, well, what crossed my mind while I was listening to you talk was how we live in, the suburban neighborhoods of our world, and we don't know our neighbors. We've never talked to them. Some people, it really always surprises me how many people don't know who lives next door to them. Have maybe only said hello and goodbye, but don't know anything about them. And the sense that when you talk about community, a lot of people think, oh, well, I live in this county, and my son or daughter goes to this school, and we shop at this nearest grocery store, and that's my community. They don't, there's a very strong lack of the connection that you were speaking of to each other as people. We've really lost that. And is that what you mean by soul sickness? Was that part of it?
Yes, that is it. And soul sickness, believe it or not, soul sickness came about when time was created. And that's something that we did, and I love this topic. Okay, so we're going to go now. Time. We invented time. We determine how fast time goes. And if you don't believe this, science can back me up on this. Because, first thing is, time-space consortium. You got the North Pole, the South Pole, and the equator. And you have the same timeline for all three, and yet less space that is covered. How can that be? You see, we create time, and it is an agreement we all make. Time is based on how fast we communicate. So, like back in the 1800s when my grandpa was living, it took 6 months from a letter to reach the East Coast to the West Coast. Time moved very slow for people. People were very involved in the cycles of the earth. And then what would happen was that life was not, I don't want to say less stressful, but in many ways it was. It was more understandable and coherent for people because there was connection to this planet and the way it was run. So then, if you look now we have time going like instant text messenger. This is so fast. And so what do? We live our lives now. Instant text messenger. I had to get off Facebook. I couldn't hang having to respond to someone every 23 seconds. I get a lot of emails, so I devote like 2 days a week, and I answer my email. I structure my time based on my energies. Every year during my birth cycle, around my birthday, I watch how my energy changes, and it sets the tone for the upcoming year. So I know, I've got a week here, and I track my energy, and what I see is how I am going with the mother, and so that's how I set my schedule. I know that on my real high energy days, I can talk to people like Hillary Raimo.
Well, I always wonder if when I bring certain people on, if the energy is so strong, it's going to blow the airwaves and blow the internet and just one of those. I know we've blown phone lines before. I've known that.
Yes, exactly. And, back in 2004, I got hit by lightning. And only a year ago was I able to start using telephones again.
Really?
Because they would telephones and computers, I would blow up.
Well, it's changing times, and a lot of people are feeling this kind of. If I could describe it any way, I would say it's like going through the hourglass neck. Where we're kind of getting squeezed, and all of our baggage and everything that we're trying to bring with us through that neck has to go and has to be left behind, so that we can kind of come out the other end, really solid in who we are and grounded in what our purpose is. And do you feel that is related to the time that we're going through? Barbara Hand-Clow was just on last week. For those of you who are listening, I hope you caught the show. If you didn't, go back into my archives. It's a very, very wonderful show. But she was describing how we've gone into the next cycle of the calendar, and it's just begun, beginning of November, and it goes until next November. And so we're going to be headed into this very interesting time. But one of the things that she stressed too, and I'd love your take on this, is how we are really going to be asked to take our own power and stand on our own 2 feet and take responsibility and accountability for our lives and move forward from that place and stop playing victim and growing up, basically, is what the message was. And I know, I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I don't know.
We had this discussion before. Well, our teaching things are pretty much in alignment with that. We don't have so much a timeline like it doesn't at 2012 is when, like everything's going to come to a screeching halt, which even my Mayan friends don't believe. We go around laughing because we like to tell people, your calendar ends every year on December 31st. We don't panic, So, think about it.
I just had this vision of, 500 to 1,000 years in the future. Well, the American calendar was going to end on the 31st, so I don't know what's going to happen after that.
I know. If you think about it, it's like things have been written down, and this is why oral traditions have been so important to us, because it's I don't know. It's a heart song that's sung when you pass down the lineage teachings, and so it's about the essence, and that essence always stays true. When we find things written in books, a lot of times we lose the essence of the meaning and the intent behind it. And since we have lived this time in isolation, it's very easy for that information to be distorted, and the power struggles that were at play because of our duality, our polarity in the fourth world of soul sickness, that there are, unfortunately, individuals that have used that to their advantage. So, yes, we call this year the year of community, and the humans are in initiation. We have 9 initiations during this time that are supposed to teach us how to be human.
Well, someone has to teach us how to be human, because I don't think we remember.
I know. And so it's like, but this one is about reunion, and it's the great family reunion. It's the reunion with self. It's the reunion with higher spirit. It's the reunion with overlapping visions of time. It's the reunion, the great reunion. And you can include those guys that, everybody doesn't want to admit exist out there too, okay? So they do. They will be back. They are watching us, and it will not be very long. I mean, they come and they talk to the elders now. These things are all coming together. Every dream that anyone dreamed possible is coming to vision, like a deja vu experience. So we say, as we've been walking our path, doing the kind of work that you and I do, when we go do something, we know that the greatest impact of the experience we create for other people will happen after they leave our presence. Mm-hmm. After that event is complete. Because what it does is it plants a seed for a deja vu moment in the future. Things happen to them in those mystical, magical places in between time that plant a seed memory in their dream that kind of like shows up on a need-to-know basis. When they need to know it, it'll be right in front of them, and they'll go, oh, I remember. Well, on the great galactic plane, that's what's going on with humanity in general through the initiations. So you have big aha moments and you have little aha moments. And mostly the people that know about aha moments, we stand on the sideline smiling a lot. and jumping up and down going, yeah, you got it. You know? It's time to be a cheerleading squad, not the tribunal court.
Yeah, I agree. And so, it's interesting because I just went to see that movie 2012 that came out this month. A lot of people have been very interesting discussions going on about the film because it's coming out of Hollywood and it's all fear, it's a lot of fear-based catastrophe kind of thing. I want to say, though, one of the things I left after watching that movie was this profound feeling of live now. Just live now. I mean, if it's going to end tomorrow or, 3 years, 10 years, 3,000, 3 million years, who knows? But, the point the thing that I got from that movie when I left, I didn't get caught up into the fear. The person I was with did. So it was a very interesting conversation after the movie because we had two very different perspectives on how that movie went. And I can imagine that a lot of people who have gone to see it have had the same experience as the person I was with. However, one of the things I had to stress with people and shared with people since is that, guys, it's just time to do your work and figure out what you're here to do and go for it and just live like it's you're really here to do something. And I want your thoughts on that, because there's a lot of people out there who say that there's so much fear-based building stuff with the prophecies and things like that, and I wanted to know your take on that.
Well, I was taught that prophecy is a road sign, and it's not positive or negative. It's what you do with it. So I was taught growing up, basically our stories are legends of history. And in one various form or another, because we are on a cyclic planet and we have chosen to live cyclic lives, these things return on many different planes of consciousness. So we replay these stories in our lives, and any individual on the street, you could stop and say, okay, how many times did you have that lesson? And they say, I'm still getting it, right? It's the same thing through history. These things evolve us. They come back around, and we do them different ways. So when I look at 2012, and I look at that movie, I have to admit, when it came out, I got a little irritated. I am a human, and I am Apache working to be a pacifist, okay? And I've gotten pretty good in the last 10, 15 years. But there are moments that I look at things, and I have this sense of, let me see, what would you call that? I have this perspective on logic that makes me ask why. Mm-hmm. Why? Now, I have been taught, just like with prophecy, that everything has a positive and negative, and it's what we as individuals choose to do with it. Because free will is the law of the land, and we have choices to make. So I looked at it, and at first I called all my friends that had any connections in Hollywood. And I was like, I want to do a movie on my grandpa's story of the prophecies. I want to take his part of enduring grace, and when he went and saw the prophet, and then he got the prophecies and his interpretation as a child, because that's the purity of what they were talking about we would go through right now. Uh-huh. And so all my friends wrote back, and they said, "Oh, that's a really great idea." Well, my one, she's kind of like an auntie. She went to college with my aunt, and so she's been a member of the family a long time. And she's a script consultant, and she's been on big movies and doing a lot of stuff. So she's the most entrenched in Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And she said, "Give it up, Maria. I quit Hollywood." I was like, okay. I was like, well, all right, that's good to know. But it got me talking to different people about what was going on. And in talking about it, when you have a vision of something, you don't give up. Creator gave you that vision. Right? And just because it may be difficult along the road, you just don't say, oh, I'm done, I give up. No. If that vision is to truly manifest, you have to have as much determination as Creator who gave it to you.
Well, what do you say to people who find their purpose and they really begin to live it, and then all of a sudden, they hit some lows and they go through these periods of doubting that, and then they say, okay, well, I'm just going to give up and walk away?
Yeah. What I say to them is you have limited your vision. You got a vision from Creator, and you took it this far, and then you held this vision in such tight restraint of what you thought it should be that you did not allow it to grow. You did not allow it to make you more than. And the second that you no longer feel like you're becoming more than you were yesterday, you find hopelessness. So flexibility is really a key, and to allow yourself to grow. Never stop learning. Otherwise, we're done.
And I want to add, never stop laughing. I think taking ourselves too seriously is a really big part of what has made us sick.
You know, Coyote Clan is a subdivision of the Wolf Clan. Did you know that?
Of course it is. No, I think you had told me that along the way somewhere, but it makes perfect sense. But I mean, really, I was just doing a film premiere last week, and I was on a big Q&A panel with a bunch of quote experts and people from all ranges, from NASA scientists all the way down to psychics and all this, and everything in between. And it was, what was amazing was that we all had these wonderfully different perspectives as we went down and we talked about the questions from our perspectives. But of course, I'm up there kind of laughing, you know, or kind of making a joke or here and there and just kind of lightening it up and getting the crowd going. We had about 300 people there. And you would have thought that some of the people were just so awestruck that I was laughing and said, we're here talking about consciousness. We're here talking about consciousness. And the only other person who really got my humor was Tom Campbell, who I was in London with last month, and we did a great film premiere over there. And he works for NASA, and he's a scientist, and he got the humor. And so him and I were just kind of going back and forth on the panel. It was great. But you know what? My point is that when we start talking about consciousness, people take it so seriously, and they get very, well, give me the evidence, prove it, and they get very, very left brain, and they start, and then when I could just come out of, and I just start talking about dreams and this and that, and I'm very secure with my, perspectives and stuff, and people just get really, really upset. And I start laughing, and I think it's funny, and they don't get that either, and then they walk away because they can't take me anymore.
I have found myself laughing at my own jokes many times. Most of them based on the Y division in my equation, right? But also I have found, okay, I've come to know you pretty well, okay? And what I have found is that you are authentic. You are authentic. So, what is authentic? Authentic is a balance, a male-female, a balance of sacredness and irreverence, a balance of every polarity there is. We live on Earth, okay? Now, coming into the physical means we can't be perfect. So if you can't be perfect, you better get a sense of humor. Because Creator made Coyote our twin. When each species was made here on the planet, each one was given a responsible role for what they were to do in the unfolding of evolution. And Coyote was to teach us to laugh at ourselves. Because it is only in that joyful laughter that we would heal that need to be perfect, that we remember from the other side, but that we cannot create here. I have some Dene, Navajo relatives, and they weave, and the aunties taught us as we were growing up as kids that you always put a flaw into your blanket, into your beadwork, into this, into that, because if you did not, you would get caught in the pattern of perfection, and it would drive your mind insane. We have learned that there is no perfection in the world. Everything's unique. How can there be perfection? Because perfection is defining what everything should be. And if everything is one thing, we have no diversity. We lose the beauty of our colors, of our unique essences. You know, so many people in the consciousness raising things that are going around. I had a really hard time when I came off the reservation and I started teaching and stuff. Coming out here to the other side, that was the worst task that my grandpa gave me. If I'd survive. And so when I came out here, I had a really hard time with a lot of words, like the religions. I never could get into the religions. They seemed like they were too dogmatic. They restrained people too much from their own spiritual understanding of the connection between them and Creator. And so I couldn't really get into that. So I had a friend that was metaphysical, and so I started talking to her a little bit and trying to make translations. And at first, I was like, you guys are completely nuts. No offense. I have since learned learned, because what it really was different ways of interpreting words. You know, my experience with the English language and what those words mean were completely different than hers, growing up in city and coming from a religious background and then going metaphysical, and she was a feminist, so she'd come up through the feminine struggles and all of that stuff. So it was that we had to talk and we had to reach a common ground to understanding. But we allowed that to happen. You know, without taking offense, and even though I was saying, that's crazy thinking, she was like, no, come on, let's talk some more, we'll figure this out. And you know what? That's what we need right now. That's one of the women's ways. That's why when they talk about the prophecies, they're talking about, oh, now is the time of the feminine. Well, it's not so much the women, because women and men carry both of those energies, masculine and feminine. It's that the masculine, the proactive energy, has become out of balance and more dominant in our life structuring. So it is the feminine, receptive, and nurturing that we need to bring forth more to balance this out. And when the balance is achieved, then we truly shall find peace as a planet. We need to, in our communications, be that receptive. You know, when I talk to people, I'm like, did you listen to what they said? And they're like, oh, yeah, I know what they said. And it's like, then you ask them to repeat what the other person said, like if you had them listen for like 5 minutes. And most people cannot repeat back what they said because they were either too busy thinking about something else, where they'd rather be, what they were going to do when they got done, or formulating what they were going to say as soon as that person got quiet. So they never completely apprehended. They never received the other person's story. And you know, the primary soul sickness on this planet is people just wanting to be seen and heard. And yet we in ourselves have trouble sitting there doing it for others. Mm-hmm. And if we can't do it, how can we expect them to do it for us? So this is one of the women's teachings, one of the feminine energy ways. And this is something, you know, we had great high hopes back in the 70s when self-help circles started, because for us, that's a talking circle. You know? In the old days, you go to Moon Lodge, you know, and back in the old days, Moon Lodge was not a disgrace. It was where women would go together that lived in a community, because, you know, when women are together, they get their menstrual cycle at the same time. It's just the way Mother Earth works. And so they would all go to this lodge, and they would be honored. The grandparents would make the meals. They would take care of the kids. The hubbies and the men, single men, would go do hunting and attend to what they needed to do. And the women were nurtured and taken care of, and they would be in this hut or teepee or whatever tradition had it. And there, the older women that were getting ready to leave the moon cycle and become our yayas, our grandmothers, they would be teaching the younger ones the ceremonies of women. The women of mother age, they would be throwing their share into the pot, and they would be teaching the young women that have just come of age what it means to be a woman, to be a mother, to be a lover. And so this was a great place of knowledge that women enjoyed coming to because they knew they were nurtured. So this is how we believe the whole world should be held. We believe that coming together as a family, and I'm going to kind of take this back to Tanashkada, the retreat, a little bit. We believe that if each person is nurtured in their own passion and dream, that they can step forth as an empowered individual, unique in who they are, supported by a community that needs what they have to offer. And that every person in that community is held in that esteem. Mm-hmm. And that's what we believe.
For those people listening, how can they get involved with that project?
Okay, they can go to our website, and I'm going to spell that that because my name is horrendous, okay? Yraceburu is an Apache name, and the spelling of it was given to us like in the 1600s when we were logged into a record at the Jesuit missionary church, and so the Jesuits came up with how to spell it. So it's www.yraceburu.org, and that is spelled YRACEBURU.org. And you just, when you get there, just click on Sanctuary. And what the sanctuary is, like I said, is we're trying to buy this 200 acres up there. And we want to develop it into a small eco-village. It would house 22 homesteads on community trust land where people could build their own natural home. One of the members of our community, a young man, Tim Reese, is one of the founders of 7 Generations Natural Builders. And we have talked to him and made an alliance for him to come teach his classes and help us with the development of the buildings and the land so that he provides the teachings. He provides a lot of the labor because they are offered as workshops there. And then all we as the community owners have to do is come up with the supplies. We want to develop a teaching and healing center, an educational and healing center, where people like my Hillary and all the vast multitudes of friends I've made through the years, and believe me, there are a lot. We sat down to plan out our program just from people that we know that have published books, people like Alberto Villordo, people like Brooke Medicine Eagle, Louisa Tesh, who is Orisha, Louis Melma Gerona, my friend, who I want to hook you up with because you need to interview him. He is bringing traditional medicines. He's Cherokee, bringing the traditional medicines of his people together with his family prevention medicine through the University of Hawaii. He's an actual doctor, and he's trying to bring the two together because he sees the time of merging is upon us, the time of a reunion. So he's doing this. So he has programs, and we have like this whole slew of Greg Braden, and oh my God. There's a whole list of our advisory council and friends and alliances at the webpage. Too many to go into today. But we have a program developed that goes 18 months, and it's full.
And you have a lot of people supporting you that are really well-known names and big people, like some of them you just mentioned, that are standing behind this project as a wonderful project. And I'm looking at the webpage now, actually, and if you want to get involved, guys, there's a donation button for $20, and you can just support just by sending off $20. Now, I know I can't go to the grocery store and spend less than $20. I mean, you can practically get a coffee and bagel and the gas to get there for $20. I mean, $20 is really not a lot of money. But if it adds up over the course of a collective movement to help create something of beauty in this world, this is where I would put my $20, and I'm certainly going to be involved in this project as well. And I really believe in it. And there is a link on Achieve Radio, the homepage there underneath my show that you can click on that will take you directly to the website as well, and that will stay up continuously if you ever want to come back and find your way back to it. Maria, and I think it's and you also answer all the questions that people could possibly have on the website as far as what's involved with membership, what you get, those kinds of things, the campaign goals, the planning, the articles, and the financial plans, absolutely everything that you could ask. Even the land plot outlined is on there too. So I highly encourage everybody listening, if you'd like more information, to visit the website, whether through Maria's website or through Achieve Radio. But all the information's there for you to take part in. Now, going back to the spirit of Thanksgiving, I would love to just spend we have about 15 minutes left in the show, talking about gratitude and, what people can really do to help the feeling of gratitude stay in their life for long term. Because when the holidays come around and we think Thanksgiving, we think, okay, I'm going to be grateful this week, and I'm so grateful, and I'm grateful, and then, the week goes and Thanksgiving goes, and then they're back into this feeling of lack of worth, and all kinds of things come in. So how do we take gratitude and make it sustainable in our lives where it's permanent?
Okay. The first thing I want to say about Thanksgiving, and as we're going into the winter, is that the Earth in her own cycle is in a death and rebirth process. And anytime the magnetics are vibrating this type of energy, we are more prone to fall into the depressive states. Okay? When we go through this process, there in our own lives, there is a moment of time where we are in transition, and it is like, the reason they call it a birth and rebirth process is because it's like you are going through the birth canal, yet once again into the next stage of who you will be. And during that time when you are in that birth canal, energetically, your guides, your ancestors, the sensation of their presence is not as strong until you start to reach the end of that birth canal. And this creates that sensation of isolation I was talking about earlier. So we also, because of the Earth cycles here in the northern hemisphere, have less sunlight. Less sunlight also creates a situation of depression because we are sun babies by genetics. So we have to have a certain amount of that vitamin D, that we get from Grandpa, or we have a tendency to become emotionally unbalanced. So, gratitude. Here's the philosophy I grew up with in my life. Every morning I get up and I thank Creator for another day in my life. Another good day with happiness and beauty lining my path. And then I go out and that's what I look for. That's one. Anytime I sit and I do my meditations, my daily prayers, I always thank before I ask. You'll find that if you share your gratitude with whatever the sacred parents have in store for you for your daily life as you're going on your path, that you'll be more inclined to get what you're asking for. But I want people to be very careful when they ask for things. And what I want to tell you about the manifestation of things is don't limit it. When you put out your request to the sacred parents or something in your life, don't hog-tie them to that. Let it be bigger. Let it be more beautiful. And allow yourself to believe that you are worthy, or they wouldn't have given it to you. Grandpa taught me that what the sacred parents give us here on earth is our responsibility to care and nurture for and put it out into the world. Everybody's out there looking for their purpose, and yet when Creator hands it to them, they say, I am not worthy. How can you not be worthy if this is what you came here to do? Doesn't make sense. We have become a species of negators. And you had talked earlier about, it's a speech pattern. I want to tell people it's a behavioral pattern that can be changed. I mean, when we sit in groups and we talk about these things, everybody's on the upbeat, everybody believes, everybody has hope, and yet we go out every day and then we negate with our words. You want to be grateful, you want to have things in your life, start paying attention to the words you use. Be conscious of the words and what they mean. Think about them before you say them. Don't speak from reaction. If we do not react and we take a moment of pause and think or allow guidance through sensation from spirit or voice or however we do it, because we all got different ways of receiving those messages, you will find that everything falls into place, and your life will become a great path of beauty, a a great path of beauty. And don't judge yourself because, we've got down days where energetically we're low. We were born on a polar planet, and our body's very physical. And we have to understand its needs as well. Everything is needed in equal balance for us to succeed as a species on this planet. And here's the good news. We have 7 worlds. We're only going into the 5th.
Let's talk about that for a second, Maria. We were going to, and we've just kind of gotten caught up in other things. Now, when you talk about going from the 4th world to the 5th world, what does that mean?
It's an energetic paradigm shift. So what that means is that, you know how the water goes around clockwise in the toilet in the northern hemisphere? Well, that's going to change. It's going to go counterclockwise, which is going to mess some things up. Okay? It means that things operate differently. So what the 7 worlds were for us is that they were different time-space units where there were different levels of consciousness. There were different focal points on what humanity as a species, their role was. And so we have had, in our prophecies, it speaks of 7. Now, in the 7, the first one is the world of love, okay, where everything was unconditional, and we weren't actually even human. We came in here as crystals. That was our first lifetime, so we would carry all the records of the world, all the generations of the years of evolution, forward, back. We would know everything within our genetic structure. So then the second world was kinship. We came into the second world as humans to learn how to be in relationship. And at first it was really good. It was really good, and we did wonderful things, but we needed a balance of something else, and it wasn't there yet. And somehow we didn't quite move into that place where we could connect with it. So the world shifted again, and we went into the world of time. Times where we really broke things, okay? That was when we created a unit of measurement that put our actions in a linear fashion instead of multidimensional. Okay? It limited our vision because it said that you always had to go from point A to point B, and you couldn't dash around and go to point X, Y, Z if you wanted to. So when we left the 4th world, it was the first time that we actually made a transition between worlds broken. Part of our psyche was broken at that point because we could not live up to our timelines. Okay? So we came into the 4th world, and the 4th world was called the world of soul sickness, and that was because of that being broken. A part of us wasn't there, and we had a hole. So in the world of soul sickness, our purpose was to find ways to cure the soul sickness. Well, the soul sickness was the isolation of feeling alone, the devastation of not being connected anymore to the sacred parents, earth, and spirit. And we kept trying to put perfection on our own parents, and all we did was create more and more judgment. Excuse me. And so we basically, now this was a journey that has been created by the polarity of the planet, okay? And so the polarity of the planet, it doesn't mean that Mama's bad or that she wanted us to go through all these things, but the polarity is what creates free will and gives us choice. And so the more we stepped away from each other, the more the choice was victimization. And so now we have landed in the bottom of the pit. And there were prophecies that we were going to be hit by a meteor. That came and went. Be sure when you get prophecies over the internet, you check out the timeline with the elders, because a lot of things that happened that promised destruction, if they were read in a negative way, but the elders always held that there was a positive potential if humans came together in higher consciousness. And guess what? We did. Mm-hmm. The meteor went right by the planet. Now, it may cause a few hair surveys on the back of your neck, but it went by the planet. It did not collide with the planet. Okay? So these are things that we have seen. Knowing prophecies, they watch for certain signs. And so they know that humanity has reached the point now where the polarity in our emotions, the good versus evil, the bad, positive, negative, however you want to look at it, is probably at its greatest point in history. And yet, because of the age of communication that we have developed, we have also exposed every atrocity that a human being could think to do to another human being, to another species, or to our planet. You got to admit, when you hear things on the news, no matter how bad they are anymore, it does not surprise you.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So that's just, we've uncovered everything. Pretty much. We've been there, done that, so let's move on. One of the prophecies I like to translate kind of like a little more contemporary, okay? So the prophecies had talked about that the four races were split up and that we needed to go to the four directions and do these migrations to set polarity in motion, and then we were to do rituals that would keep power places alive so that a balance could be maintained between these polarities. As we moved away from the land and we stopped doing ritual that acknowledged the life of the planet and us involved with the life of the planet in a relationship, these power places have, just like humans pulling in their heart center, these power places have also pulled in their energy centers, so that polarity has been set off kilter. The axis is shifting. Earth changes are happening. Science has proved that this has happened accordingly, right in sequence with all of the prophesized worlds of Native America and many of the indigenous peoples of the world. They can do that by measuring magnetics. They drill down like so far. It's really an interesting process. But what our prophecies tell us is that signs would be seen, and people would start with our ancestors would be born in the children of our enemies. Okay? So when the 60s rolled around and the elders saw all the hippies, we got very excited. You know, because here comes Grandpa again, you know? And I seriously believe that every person that comes into my life that I have a physical relationship with is part of my family somewhere down the lineage. That's how we know each other. Mm-hmm. So I go and, like, ask my grandpa, who's this person? Now, this is part of a birthing ritual, too. When a child's born, all the aunties come together, and they all deliberate over who the child is returned. And so that's the name the child's given, because they see that person. They reach a consensus that this is so-and-so from such and such generation and this lineage of the family, and they give that child that name so that essence of that person continues on, and it helps that person unlock genetic memory as they move forward in life. So when people come to me and I recognize them, I will call them by that name. And if they had been born in my family, would have been the first name they received, their childhood name. And you get many.
It's a beautiful process. And as you're talking, it feels like, you know, if we could all just kind of switch back to understanding the energies of how these work, we would be far better off than where we are, separated and isolated. And I'm glad you brought that topic up. We have the last minute of the show, and what I usually ask my guests, what I've been doing lately, is taking the idea that you're on radio with the airwaves spreading out across the world thanks to the internet. Will you please say, or just speak a few words for the last 40 seconds or so of the show, and with the intention of the words rippling out, touching each person that's listening from consciousness to consciousness. What is your final message for the show?
My final message is always our first prayer for life. Nagotsan awazana, yal awazana, dalitse degot yana, nagotsan ilditsi, pinu ichikase, shishiyukihi, hamdayane. We have come from the Earth Mother. We have come from the Sky Father. We have come into this circle of life to be all that we can be. We are all our relations. This is our prayer, and we are grateful, and so it is.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. I'm Hillary Raimo. Until next time, namaste.